When it comes to famous music venues, one of the most important in all of history has been in the news a lot lately, so I'm taking today's lesson to discuss exactly what CBGB's was, as well as why it played such a vital role in the progression of modern music. First off, CBGB stands for Country, Bluegrass, and Blues, and on the original sign, under those letters, it had the letters OMFUG written. The latter acronym stands for Other Music for Uplifting Gormandizers. For those wondering, a gormandizer is someone who's a rather ravenous eater, but in the case of CBGB's, it was supposed to mean someone who wants to take in large quantities of great music. The club was founded and opened in December of 1973 by Hilly Crystal on the spot of his old bar, Hilly's on the Bowery. Located in New York City's Bowery district, the club was set to feature bands playing bluegrass, country, and blues music, as the name suggests. However, only a few months after Hilly's on the Bowery became CBGB's, the famed Mercer Arts Center closed down, leaving virtually no place in the city for unsigned bands or up-and-coming bands to get a show. This led to some of Crystal's friends suggesting that he book some of these more experimental acts, and within a few months, artists like The Fast and Suicide played some of the first shows at CBGB's. Then, in early 1974, a virtually unknown band asked if they could play a gig at CBGB's. Almost jokingly, Crystal agreed that the band could play on one condition, that they build a small stage in the club. The band actually agreed and built the first stage. That band was none other than Television. Over the next few years, artists like Patti Smith, Blondie, The Heartbreakers, Talking Heads, and so many other iconic bands all spent time playing at CBGB's. Looking and sounding unlike anything else that was going on at the time, there may be no other band more closely affiliated with CBGB's than the one and only Ramones. During the 1980s, while there were certainly larger bands playing at CBGB's, it was the rising hardcore scene that really kept the club alive. This was particularly obvious during CBGB's Sunday matinees, which were often called thrash days. These afternoons featured a number of bands playing back-to-back, and everyone from the Bad Brains to the Misfits to Gorilla Biscuits, and even a small up-and-coming trio called the Beastie Boys played memorable shows during this slot. But in the early aughts, it was revealed that Hilly Crystal was in a bitter battle with his landlords at the space at 315 Bowery, as they claimed the club owed more than $100,000 in back rent. A series of lawsuits ensued, but by 2006, all of the suits had been dismissed, and Hilly Crystal had also lost his application to have CBGB's turned into a historical landmark. In October of that year, a series of amazing shows formally closed the venue, and acts like Blondie, the Bad Brains, and the Dictators all took a spot on the final bills leading up to the October 15th closing show. Fittingly, the final act on stage at CBGB's was Patti Smith, and throughout her set, she paid tribute not only to the club's history, but many of the legendary acts that made their way through the club over the years. Less than a year later, Crystal passed away, and almost instantly, CBGB's became entangled in a number of massive legal battles, as it had become one of the most recognizable names and logos across the world. These days, 315 Bowery houses a John Varvatos store, and the original awning from CBGB's is on display at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. Finally, only a few weeks ago, it was announced that an investment firm had secured the rights to both the name as well as the remaining physical objects of CBGB's. Rumors have begun to circulate that the group is going to open another CBGB's somewhere in the city, and this July will be the inaugural CBGB's festival, seeing tons of bands playing all around the city. So while there have been many famous music venues all across the globe, due to the way that it nurtured so many bands, as well as the fact that CBGB's as a club mirrored the ethos of so many of the bands in question, there may be no other venue in music history that holds the same place historically or in stature as the legendary CBGB's.